Suppose you're interested in finding the limit of x minus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3 as x goes to infinity. If you use direct substitution, you end up with infinity minus infinity, which is not 0. It's a common mistake for students that they say, hey, infinity minus infinity is 0, so this limit is equal to 0. This is wrong, everyone. It's a common mistake. Usually when you have infinity minus infinity, we try to use conjugate, but it's not true all the time. This is a common approach. So since we have infinity minus infinity, let us try to use the conjugate. From algebra, remember that if you have a quantity like a minus b, its conjugate is a plus b. If you have a quantity like a plus b, then the conjugate is a minus b. So we're going to multiply both the numerator and the denominator, which is 1, by the conjugate. We multiply both the numerator and the invisible denominator, which is 1, by the conjugate, which is, let me use a different color, x plus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3. Okay, let us begin it. So we want to calculate the limit of x minus square root of x plus 1 times x plus 3 divided by 1 as x goes to infinity. And in our multiplication, we have x plus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3 divided by x plus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3. Okay, perfect. Now simplify. Now simplify. So basically, when you simplify the numerator, here you have x times x, which is x squared, minus the multiplication of these two quantities. So you get rid of the square root. This is equal to the limit of x squared minus x plus 1 times x plus 3 divided by 1 times x plus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3. Then take the limit as x goes to infinity. So here you have the limit of x squared minus, open parenthesis, x squared plus 3x plus 1x, or 4x plus 3 divided by, I'm going to copy down the denominator. I get x plus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3 as x goes to infinity. Okay, simplify this further. You get the limit of x squared minus x squared minus 4x minus 3, just basically distributing this negative sign into parentheses and divided up by x plus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3. And note that your x goes to infinity. So of course you can cancel these two out. What's left on the numerator? You have the limit of negative 4x minus 3 divided by x plus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3 as x goes to infinity. Well, to calculate this, let us divide everything by x. You get the limit of negative 4x divided by x, negative 3 divided by x. Down here you have x over x plus. So basically, when it comes to this, you can combine this into one integral, and you get x plus 1, x plus 3, and divide by x, then x goes to infinity. So you can simplify this guy further into the limit of negative 4 minus 3 divided by x, but x goes to infinity, so this guy is equal to 0. Down here you get 1 plus, here you have square root of, well, for each one of these, you get 1 plus 1 over x, and here you have 1 plus 3 over x. Well, as x goes to infinity, these two are equal to 0. So what happens? You have the limit of negative 4 divided by 1 plus square root of 1 as x goes to infinity. So you have negative 4 divided by 2, or minus 2. So the limit of this function is equal to negative 2. The limit exists, and it is equal to negative 2. Let's go back up there and summarize this a little bit. So we are trying to find the limit of x minus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3. If you use direct substitution gives you infinity minus infinity indeterminate form. It's not equal to 0. It's a common mistake for students on the exam. They say, hey, infinity minus infinity is equal to 0. Nope, it's not. Infinity minus infinity is called indeterminate form. So, since we have infinity minus infinity, one of the common approaches is to use conjugate. So, what is the conjugate of x minus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3? From algebra, if you have a minus b, the conjugate is a plus b. So you get the conjugate of the denominator, which is x plus square root of x plus 3 times square root of x plus 1. So you multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate to balance this. Then you do the algebra, simplify as much as you can. You get negative 4x minus 3 divided by x plus square root of x plus 1 times square root of x plus 3. X goes to infinity. Apply the method of finding the limit by dividing by, divide by x. But when you divide the denominator by x, you have square root. It means that you have x squared. So the square root of x squared is x. So that's how you end up with 2 x's down here. Well, when x goes to infinity, 1 over infinity is 0. So you end up with negative 2 as the limit of this function.